Doomsday clock ticks closer to apocalypse and only one person is to be held responsible. The newly elected American president.
First time since 1953, following hydrogen bomb tests in the U.S. and then Soviet Union, a panel of scientists and scholars have warned that we are creeping close to a potential global apocalypse. The Chicago-based Bulletin of Atomic Scientists have moved the Doomsday clock, a symbolic countdown to the end of the world, to 2.5 minutes to midnight. The group cited U.S. President Donald Trump's disturbing comments about the use of nuclear weapons, denials on the reality of climate change, and the global rise of nationalism as just some of the contributing factors in this dark forecast of the future. The emblematic clock had remained at 3 minutes to midnight for the past 2 years. Since 1945, a team of Nobel laureates at the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists has been compiling research and global data to set the Doomsday clock.
According to the short video, report says, Doomsday clock ticks closer to apocalypse and one person is to blame. The world is ticking another 30 seconds closer to the apocalypse in part because of Donald Trump. At least that's the dire warning from the group of scientists who oversee the metaphorical Doomsday clock, the hands of which were moved Thursday to 2 minutes and 30 seconds before midnight, the time that represents when a catastrophic nuclear event can annihilate the Earth. It's the closest the clock has been to midnight since the Cold War of the 1950s. The clock is revised annually, but remained at 3 minutes before midnight last year, the same as it was in 2015 after positive global developments such as the Iran nuclear deal and the Paris Climate Agreement helped stave off a doomsday scenario. But the Chicago-based Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, a science journal which oversees the clock, said recent events prompted them to push the clock forward in 2017. Those include a rise in strident nationalism worldwide, cyber threats, an active and blatant disregarding for factual science, and President Trump's comments on nuclear arms and climate change. Trump has repeatedly claimed that global warming is a hoax. Meanwhile, in December, he tweeted that he would like to expand America's nuclear weapons capability, apparently rejecting 4 decades of U.S. policy to reduce nuclear arms. 6 or 7 days into a new administration, we wanted to send a message that things are not going in the right direction, Lawrence Krauss, a theoretical physicist affiliated with the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, said at a news conference Thursday. Regardless of whether the scientists' symbolic timepiece was changed by 30 seconds or a minute, this is historic, Krauss added. The clock has not been closer to midnight in 64 years. We felt things are inching in a more dangerous path, but we try not to act on the moment. The Doomsday clock was at 2 minutes to midnight in 1953, when the US was mired in the Cold War with the Soviet Union. That year, President Harry Truman announced the US had developed a hydrogen bomb, putting the threat of a thermonuclear war on the table. The clock, which was first set in 1947 to 7 minutes before midnight, was pushed as far back as 17 minutes before midnight in 1991. That was the year the Cold War ended. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists says its purpose is to bring awareness to nuclear disarmament, climate change, and energy, and other technology issues that can help save the Earth. The future of the clock and our future is in your hands, Krauss said Thursday. The Bulletin's board bases the clock's time with a consultation from its board of sponsors, which includes 16 Nobel laureates. Citing a rise in global nationalism and humanity's failure to confront nuclear weapons and climate change, scientists today pushed the infamous Doomsday clock 30 seconds closer to midnight, the symbolic moment humankind is supposed to annihilate itself. That pushes the planet from 3 minutes to destruction to a mere 2.5. Since the clock was launched in 1947, this is the closest we've come to the brink since 1953, when the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, BAS, moved the hand 2 minutes to midnight following the first testing of a hydrogen bomb. One of the biggest reasons for the move, wrote BAS scientists in an op-ed in the New York Times, was the ascent of U.S. President Donald Trump. Never before has the Bulletin decided to advance the clock largely because of the statements of a single person, they wrote. but Mr. Trump's statements and actions have been unsettling. Those include comments about the use of nuclear weapons during his campaign as well as during his transition to the White House. In a tweet in December 2016, Trump wrote, "The United States must greatly strengthen and expand its nuclear capability until such time as the world comes to its senses regarding nukes." Politico reported he has since given mixed responses regarding the notion, saying there is not going to be an arms race but also noting he won't take anything off the table. "The world is a more dangerous place," said Lawrence Krauss of Arizona State University in Tempe, who is a theoretical physicist and chair of the BAS Board of Sponsors, adding that BAS Science and Security Board wanted to send a cautionary message 6 days into an administration that the group says shows a growing disregard for scientific expertise. A panel of 3 BAS scientists and a former U.S. ambassador made the announcement, speaking not only of the new U.S. administration, but also about actions to develop nuclear weapons around the globe, including places like North Korea, India, Pakistan, China, and Russia. "It is not time to build up. It is time to continue to build down," former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Thomas Pickering said when asked about U.S. and Russian nuclear capabilities, which now account for 90% of the world's nuclear arms. Panelists also expressed concern over the rise of fake news and general distrust of fact, both of which influenced the incremental move. The bulletin felt it was important to say words do matter. "This half-minute move was something we felt very strong and comfortable with because it represented a new set of figures we hadn't confronted before," Rachel Bronson, BAS Executive Director and Publisher in Chicago, Illinois, said. The threat of climate change and mixed efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions were also taken into account. Though advances were made with the Paris Climate Agreement, the panel said, it is too early to say whether they will bear out. The apocalyptic clock was created by former Manhattan Project scientists in an effort to bring public attention to the threat of nuclear war. Hovering anywhere between 17 and 2 minutes to midnight since its formation, the minute hand of the clock advances forward to symbolize humanity's looming demise. Thanks for watching. Like and share and don't forget to leave your comments.